She ran into a stranger's car to escape her ex, unaware he was a billionaire who'd fall for her. Kayla Monroe's lungs burned as she ran through the rain-soaked streets of San Francisco, her ex-boyfriend's footsteps echoing behind her like thunder. She'd spotted Ryan outside her workplace 20 minutes ago, that familiar rage in his eyes that still haunted her nightmares. Now he was hunting her through the financial district, and she was running out of places to hide. That's when she saw it. A black Rolls-Royce idling at the curb, driver's door open, engine purring. Without thinking, without hesitation, she dove into the back seat, yanking the door shut behind her. "Drive!" she gasped, water streaming from her hair. "Please, just drive." The man in the driver's seat turned, and even in her panic, she noticed his eyes, piercing blue, startled but instantly alert. He didn't ask questions. He simply put the car in gear and pulled into traffic, leaving Ryan standing in the rain shouting her name. 5 blocks later, when her breathing finally slowed, she realized what she'd done. She'd jumped into a stranger's Rolls-Royce. And the stranger, wearing a suit that probably cost more than her annual rent, was looking at her in the rear-view mirror with an expression she couldn't read. She'd just carjacked a billionaire. She just didn't know it yet. Before we dive into this incredible story of unexpected sanctuary and love, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss our emotional love stories. The Rolls-Royce glided through San Francisco's rain-slicked streets like a ship through dark water, its engine so quiet, Kayla could hear her own heartbeat. The man driving hadn't spoken since they'd left Ryan behind, but his presence filled the car, calm, controlled, expensive in a way that went beyond the obvious wealth. "I'm so sorry," Kayla finally managed, her voice shaking. "I didn't mean to. God, I just jumped into your car. You could call the police, I wouldn't blame you." "Are you hurt?" His voice was deep, cultured, with a hint of concern that surprised her. "What? No, I'm not." "Are you safe now?" The question made her throat tight. When was the last time anyone had asked if she was safe? For the moment. He pulled into a quieter street, then into an underground parking garage that required a key code. The fluorescent lights revealed what the darkness had hidden, the true luxury of the car she'd invaded, all cream leather and polished wood, and the man himself, who looked like he'd stepped out of a boardroom rather than been carjacked. "We can sit here until you're ready," he said, turning to face her properly for the first time. Kayla's breath caught. He was handsome in that unfair way that usually came with arrogance, but his expression held only patience. Dark hair slightly mussed from the rain, those incredible blue eyes, a jawline that belonged in a magazine. Early 30s, she guessed, though something in his eyes seemed older. "I'm Evan," he said simply. "Kayla." She was suddenly aware of how she must look, soaked through, makeup probably running, her waitress uniform clinging uncomfortably. "I'm really sorry about your seats. The water. They're just seats. They're Rolls-Royce seats." A small smile tugged at his lips. "Still just seats. Do you want to tell me what you were running from?" "My ex." The words came out bitter. "He's persistent." Evan's expression darkened slightly. How persistent? The kind that doesn't understand that over means over, that no means no, that a restraining order is supposed to mean stay away. She laughed bitterly. Though that expired 2 months ago, and the police said without new evidence of threat, they can't renew it. The system is broken when it comes to protecting women from stalkers. She looked at him sharply. "You sound like you know." "I've seen it happen. Someone close to me went through something similar." He paused. "Do you have somewhere safe to go tonight?" The question she'd been dreading. Yes. My apartment." That he knows the location of. Her silence was answer enough. "There's a hotel nearby," Evan said carefully. "The St. Regis. I can't afford the St. Regis. I can barely afford my studio in the Tenderloin. I wasn't suggesting you pay. I can't take your money. You've already done enough, letting me hijack your car and drip all over your leather seats. They're still just seats." He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. "There. Room booked. They'll have clothes and toiletries waiting. No strings, no expectations. Just a safe place for tonight, while you figure out next steps. Why would you do that for a stranger? He considered the question. Because you were desperate enough to jump into a stranger's car. Because you're brave enough to rebuild your life despite someone trying to destroy it. Because everyone deserves to feel safe. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have right now. Something in his tone made her study him more closely. There was loneliness there, hidden under the expensive suit and confident demeanor. She recognized it because she carried the same weight. "Okay," she said finally. "One night, and I'll pay you back. If it makes you feel better, certainly." He drove her to the St. Regis, pulling into a private entrance she hadn't even known existed. A manager appeared immediately, treating Evan with the kind of deference reserved for either royalty or regular high-paying customers. "Mr. Sinclair, everything has been arranged as requested. The boutique sent several options and room service is on standby." Sinclair. Even Kayla, who didn't follow business news, recognized that name. Sinclair Innovations, the tech company that had revolutionized AI-assisted healthcare, the billionaire CEO who'd been on the cover of Forbes just last month. She'd carjacked one of the richest men in America. "Oh God," she breathed. Evan turned to her, reading her expression. "Does it matter? You're Evan Sinclair. I'm the same person I was 5 minutes ago. You're a billionaire. Again, same person. I jumped into your car. I could have been a crazy person, an assassin, a frightened woman running from a dangerous ex." He touched her shoulder gently, the first time he'd touched her at all. "Kayla, I don't care about the money or the name. I care that you're safe tonight. That's all." The hotel room was a suite, because of course it was, larger than her entire apartment, with views of the bay that would have taken her breath away if she'd had any breath left. The promised clothes were waiting, several outfits in what was miraculously her size, all simple and elegant. "How did you know my size?" she asked when Evan called to check she'd arrived safely. "I guessed. Was I close?" "Disturbingly accurate. I'm good with details. Evan, Mr. Sinclair, Evan, please. This is too much. The room, the clothes, it's one night of safety. That's not too much. It's the bare minimum. Order room service, get some sleep, and don't worry about your ex tonight. The hotel security has his photo and won't let him near the building." How do they have his photo? I may have done some quick research. Ryan Morrison, 32, works in financial consulting, has 2 previous restraining orders from other women. Not exactly a prince. You researched him? Know thy enemy, Sun Tzu. You're quoting The Art of War about my stalker ex. Would you prefer Shakespeare? Hell hath no fury? That's about women scorned. Details, she laughed, surprising herself. You're not what I expected from a billionaire. What did you expect? Cold, calculating, dismissive. I can be all those things, but not tonight. Tonight I'm just a guy making sure you're okay. Why do you care so much? There was a pause. My sister. She had a similar situation years ago. I couldn't help her. I was overseas building the company. By the time I knew how bad it was, she'd already been hurt. She survived. She's thriving now, but I couldn't protect her when she needed it. Maybe this is my way of balancing the scales. I'm not your sister. No, you're not. Something in the way he said it made her stomach flutter. Get some sleep, Kayla. Tomorrow's a new day. Evan? Thank you for everything. Thank you for trusting me enough to stay in that car. After he hung up, Kayla sat on the enormous bed trying to process the last few hours. This morning she'd been a waitress at a failing cafe, looking over her shoulder for Ryan, scraping together tips to make rent. Tonight she was in a suite at the St. Regis, courtesy of a billionaire who'd treated her with more kindness in 3 hours than Ryan had in their entire relationship. She ordered room service, a burger and fries, despite the fancy options, and took the longest, hottest bath of her life in the marble tub. The clothes fit perfectly, soft pajamas that felt like clouds, jeans and sweaters that were simple, but clearly expensive. There was even a note with them. These are yours to keep, no returns necessary. E. That night, for the first time in months, she slept without nightmares. The next morning, Kayla woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and a text from an unknown number. "Good morning, this is Evan. I hope you slept well. Breakfast is on its way up. I remembered you mentioned loving French toast during our drive. My assistant Marcus has found 3 apartment options in secure buildings if you're interested. No pressure. Also, your ex seems to have visited your current apartment last night. The neighbors called the police. You made the right choice staying away." She stared at the text. He'd remembered her offhand comment about French toast. He'd had someone find apartment options. He was still protecting her. The breakfast arrived as promised. French toast with fresh berries, bacon, fresh squeezed orange juice, and coffee that smelled like heaven. There was another note. "Eat. You need strength for whatever comes next. E." She texted back, "How do you know I need strength?" His response was immediate. "Because you had the strength to run. To jump into a stranger's car, to accept help, that takes more courage than most people have. Or desperation. Sometimes they're the same thing." She wanted to argue, but a knock interrupted. It was Marcus, Evan's assistant, a competent-looking man in his 50s who managed to be both professional and kind. "Mr. Sinclair asked me to give you these," he said, handing her a set of folders. "Apartment options, all in buildings with excellent security. He's also arranged for a security consultant to do a threat assessment on Mr. Morrison and a lawyer to help with a new restraining order." "This is too much. Mr. Sinclair specifically asked me to tell you, and I quote, 'It's not too much, it's what should have been done the first time.'" The apartments were all perfect, safe, clean, in good neighborhoods, all significantly more than she could afford. "I can't pay for these," she told Marcus. "Mr. Sinclair has a proposal about that. He'd like to discuss it over lunch, if you're amenable." "A proposal?" "A job opportunity. Legitimate employment. Not—" Marcus colored slightly. "That is to say, proper employment with Sinclair Innovations. I'm a waitress with 2 years of community college. What could I possibly do at a tech company?" "Mr. Sinclair believes you'd be perfect for a position in our new community outreach program, but he'll explain better himself." Against her better judgment, she agreed to lunch. Evan picked her up himself, no driver, in a much more modest Tesla rather than the Rolls. "Trying not to intimidate me?" she asked. "Is it working?" "The fact that you own multiple cars is intimidating enough." He took her to a small bistro in Sausalito, away from the city's chaos. Over sandwiches and soup, normal food, not the fancy stuff she'd expected, he outlined his proposal. "We're launching a program to help domestic violence survivors get back on their feet. Job training, safe housing, counseling support. I need someone to help run it, someone who understands what these women are going through." "You want to hire me because I have a stalker ex?" "I want to hire you because you're surviving a stalker ex, because you know what help looks like from the receiving end, because you had the courage to accept assistance when you needed it." "I don't have the qualifications." "You have the only qualification that matters, lived experience. Everything else can be taught." "This feels like charity. It's a job, 60,000 to start, full benefits, flexible hours to accommodate continuing education if you want. And yes, one of the benefits is subsidized housing in our corporate apartments, which happen to have excellent security." "Evan, it's not charity. It's recognizing talent where others might miss it." "Talent? I serve coffee and run from my ex. That's not talent. You've survived an abusive relationship. You're rebuilding your life despite active persecution. You maintain grace under pressure. I saw that when you apologized for getting my seats wet while you were fleeing danger. That strength most people never develop." She wanted to argue, but something in his eyes stopped her. He meant it. This billionaire, this man who could have anyone, hire anyone, genuinely believed she had something valuable to offer. "Why do you care so much?" she asked again. This time, his answer was different. "Because from the moment you jumped into my car, terrified but determined, I haven't been able to stop thinking about you." The words hung between them, heavy with implication. "That's not professional," she said weakly. "No, it's not. Which is why the job offer stands regardless of anything personal. You can take the position, never see me outside of work, and I'll respect that completely, or Or we could have dinner, not as employer and employee, but as two people who met in the strangest way possible and might want to know each other better. I'm a mess, Evan. My ex is stalking me. I'm basically homeless. I have nothing to offer someone like you. You have everything to offer. You're real, you're strong, you're surviving. Do you know how rare that is in my world? I'm surrounded by people who've never faced real adversity, who think problems are things you throw money at until they disappear. That's literally what you're doing with my problems. No, I'm giving you tools. You're the one doing the surviving. Her phone buzzed. Ryan. Again. The 15th call today. Evan's expression darkened. May I? She handed him the phone, curious what he'd do. He answered on speaker. Mr. Morrison, this is Evan Sinclair. You're going to stop calling Kayla. You're going to stop following her. You're going to disappear from her life completely. Who the fuck are you? Ryan's voice was aggressive, slightly slurred. I'm the man who's about to make your life very difficult if you don't leave her alone. I know about your debts, Ryan. The gambling problem you've hidden from your employer, the 2 other women with restraining orders, the assault charge you pled down to a misdemeanor. You can't threaten me. I'm not threatening, I'm informing. Stay away from Kayla, or I'll ensure every potential employer, every dating app match, every person in your social circle knows exactly what kind of man you are. Your choice. He hung up and handed the phone back. That was, Kayla started. Too much? Kind of hot, actually. The words slipped out before she could stop them. Evan's eyes widened, then darkened with something that made her stomach flip. Careful, Kayla. I'm trying very hard to be professional here. What if I don't want you to be professional? Then we're having dinner tonight, somewhere public, safe, with no pressure or expectations. Just dinner? Just dinner. And conversation. And maybe the beginning of something neither of us expected. She agreed to dinner. How could she not? This man had given her safety, dignity, and hope in the span of 24 hours. The least she could do was share a meal with him. That evening, Evan picked her up in the Tesla again, dressed down in jeans and a sweater that probably cost more than her entire wardrobe, but somehow made him look approachable, normal even. You're trying to make me comfortable, she observed. Is it that obvious? The casual clothes, the regular car, choosing a bistro over a 5-star restaurant. Yes, it's obvious. And is it working? A little, though you still look like you stepped out of a magazine. You look beautiful, he said simply, taking in her appearance. She was wearing one of the outfits he'd bought, a simple blue dress that brought out her eyes. These are your clothes. They're your clothes, and you make them look better than I imagined. The restaurant he chose this time was a small Italian place in North Beach, family-owned, the kind where the grandmother still made the sauce from scratch. The owner greeted Evan by name, but there was warmth there, not the cold deference of the hotel staff. You come here often? Kayla asked as they were seated at a corner table. My first office was above this restaurant. When I was 22, sleeping on an air mattress and living on ramen, Mrs. Rossi would feed me leftover pasta and tell me I was too skinny. She was the only person who believed in me when I was nobody. You were never nobody. I was worse than nobody. I was an orphan with a laptop and an idea everyone said was impossible. Orphan? He nodded, twirling his wine glass. Parents died in a car accident when I was 16. My sister Sarah was 12. I got emancipated, became her guardian, and worked 3 jobs to keep us together and out of foster care. Evan, I had no idea. Why would you? The official bio says I'm a self-made success story. It doesn't mention the nights I stayed awake, terrified child services would take Sarah away, or that my first company failed spectacularly and we almost ended up on the streets. But you made it. We survived. There's a difference. Making it came later, after years of barely holding on. He looked at her intently. That's why I recognized the look in your eyes last night, the desperation mixed with determination. I've worn that look. You're nothing like me. I'm exactly like you, just further along the timeline, which is why I know you're going to be okay, more than okay. Their food arrived. Homemade lasagna for her, seafood linguine for him, and conversation flowed easier than Kayla expected. He asked about her childhood, happy until her dad left, her dreams, teaching once upon a time, her favorite books, mystery novels, the trashier the better. She asked about building his company, exhausting. His sister, married with twins now, living in Seattle, his hobbies. What hobbies? "You don't do anything for fun?" she asked, incredulous. "I work." "That's not fun, that's obligation." "It's fun when you're building something that matters. But what about actual fun? Movies, sports, travel for pleasure, not business." He looked genuinely puzzled. "I honestly can't remember the last time I did something just for enjoyment." "That's sad." "Is it? I've built a company that helps millions of people access healthcare. That feels more important than fun." "But what's the point of success if you never enjoy it?" He stared at her for a long moment. "No one's ever asked me that before." "Really? Everyone assumes the money is the enjoyment, the power, the influence, but you're right. I have everything and enjoy nothing." He paused. "Except tonight. I'm enjoying tonight." "Me too," she admitted. After dinner, he drove her back to the hotel but didn't immediately let her out. "I want to see you again," he said. "Not about the job, not about your ex. Just us. Evan, we're from completely different worlds. So eventually you'll realize I don't fit in your world, that I'm a liability at your fancy events, that I don't understand half of what you do, that I'm just a waitress you rescued. First, you're not just anything. Second, my world is what I make it and I want you in it. Third, you understand the only thing that matters, how to be real in a world full of facades. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you apologize for things that aren't your fault. I know you're proud but practical enough to accept help when needed. I know you have nightmares about your ex but still manage to smile. I know you ordered a burger at the St. Regis because you don't need to impress anyone. You notice that. I notice everything about you." The intensity in his voice made her shiver. "This is happening really fast. We can slow down. We can be friends first if you want. I need you to know that this isn't pity or charity or some billionaire savior complex. This is me, completely captivated by you." "Why?" "Because you're the first person in years who's made me want something other than the next business deal. You jumped into my car and suddenly my perfectly ordered world didn't make sense anymore." She kissed him then, leaning across the center console, her hand finding his jaw. It was soft, tentative, a question more than a statement. He answered by deepening the kiss, his hand tangling in her hair, and for a moment the world outside the car ceased to exist. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. "That was," she started, "incredible. I was going to say complicated." "That too." She laughed and he smiled, a real smile that transformed his face from handsome to devastating. "Take the job," he said, "not because of this, but because you'd be great at it. Date me, not because I'm helping you, but because you want to. Stay safe, not because I'm protecting you, but because you deserve safety." "That's a lot of decisions." "Take your time. I'm not going anywhere." Over the next week, Kayla thought about everything. She toured the apartments Marcus had found, each one perfect in its own way. She met with the team at Sinclair Innovations about the community outreach position and found herself genuinely excited about the work. She had coffee with Sarah, Evan's sister, who'd flown down from Seattle. "He told me about you," Sarah said, studying Kayla with eyes the same shade of blue as her brother's. "He hasn't told me about anyone in years. He's different since he met you, lighter. He actually left the office before 8 p.m. 3 times this week. That's a record." "He's been very kind." Sarah laughed. "Evan isn't kind. He's efficient, brilliant, ruthless when needed, but kind. That's new. That's you. I haven't done anything. You existed. You needed help, and let him provide it. Do you know how rare that is? Everyone wants something from him, money, connections, power. You just wanted to be safe. It must have been refreshing. He's helped me so much. And you've helped him remember he's human. Trust me. That's worth more than whatever apartment or job he's offered. That afternoon, Ryan appeared at the cafe where Kayla still worked her last week, but this time she wasn't alone. A security guard Evan had hired stepped forward before Ryan could approach. "You need to leave, sir. I just want to talk to her." "No." Kayla found her voice strong and clear. "We have nothing to talk about. Leave, or I call the police." "You little bitch. You think your rich boyfriend can protect you forever?" The security guard moved forward, but Kayla held up her hand. "No, I've got this." She looked Ryan straight in the eye. "Evan Sinclair isn't protecting me. He's giving me the tools to protect myself. There's a difference. And Ryan? You should know he meant what he said. Every employer, every date, everyone will know exactly what you are if you come near me again." Ryan's face went red, then white. He turned and left without another word. That night, Kayla called Evan. "I did it. I faced him down." "I heard. Marcus was very impressed." "You had Marcus watching?" "I had Marcus's team watching. I wanted you to handle it yourself, but I needed to know you were safe." "That's either sweet or creepy." "Probably both. I'm working on boundaries." "Work harder." "Yes, ma'am." She could hear his smile through the phone. "I'm taking the job," she said. "Good. And the apartment on Fillmore, the one with the garden?" "Excellent choice. And I want to see you again. Not because you're helping me, but because I can't stop thinking about you." "Thank God." The relief in his voice was palpable. "I've been completely useless at work all week. I actually dozed off during a board meeting because I'd been up all night thinking about that kiss." The Billionaire CEO dozed off in a board meeting. The board was shocked. I told them I was coming down with something. "You were?" "Yes, you. That's the cheesiest thing I've ever heard. I'm out of practice with romance. Actually, I was never in practice. I don't really date." "What do you do?" "Work. Occasionally attend events with appropriate companions arranged by my assistant." "That sounds awful." "It was efficient, until you." "I ruined your efficiency." "Completely destroyed it. I spent an hour yesterday watching videos of French toast recipes because you mentioned you liked it." "Why?" "I wanted to learn to make it for you." The sweetness of that, the pure normalcy of a billionaire wanting to cook breakfast for her, made her chest tight. "I'm moving into the apartment tomorrow," she said. "I'll help." "You don't have to." "I want to. What time?" And he did. He showed up at her old apartment in jeans and a t-shirt, ready to carry boxes. Her few possessions looked pitiful in the grand scheme of things, but he treated each item with care. "This is all I have," she said, embarrassed as they loaded the last box into his Tesla. 27 years of life fits into one carload. Things are just things. You have what matters. What's that? Strength, intelligence, terrible taste in ex-boyfriends but excellent taste in getaway cars. She laughed. "Lucky you were there." "Luck had nothing to do with it. I'd just closed the biggest deal of my career. I should have been at the office celebrating with my team. Instead, I felt empty, so I was driving aimlessly through the rain, wondering what the point of it all was. Then you jumped in and gave me the answer. Which was, to be there when someone needs help. To matter beyond spreadsheets and profit margins. The new apartment was perfect, bright, airy, with a small garden that got afternoon sun. Evan had arranged for it to be furnished, but simply nothing ostentatious. "It's too much," she said, but she was smiling. "It's exactly enough. You deserve a fresh start." They spent the day unpacking her few things, ordering pizza, sitting on the floor of her new living room like college kids. It was the most normal Evan had felt in years. "This is nice," he said, leaning against the couch with his third slice. "Pizza is nice. Being normal is nice. No meetings, no expectations, just this." "Is this what you're looking for? Normal?" "I'm looking for real. Normal is a bonus." As the sun set, painting the apartment golden, Evan's phone rang constantly. He ignored it. "Shouldn't you answer that?" Kayla asked after the 10th call. "No." "What if it's important?" "Nothing is more important than this." "Than sitting on my floor eating pizza?" Then being with you, yes. She kissed him again, longer this time, pizza forgotten. When they finally pulled apart, his phone had accumulated 23 missed calls. Evan, seriously, answer it. He did, reluctantly. His expression changed immediately. When? Is she okay? I'll be right there. What's wrong? Sarah, she's in the hospital. Complications with the pregnancy. Go, Kayla said immediately. I'll come with you. You don't have to. You helped me when I was scared. Let me return the favor. They drove to UCSF Medical Center in tense silence, Evan's knuckles white on the steering wheel. In the hospital, they found Sarah pale but stable, her husband James by her side. Preeclampsia, Sarah explained weakly. They're doing an emergency C-section tomorrow. The twins are early but should be okay. Evan took her hand, and Kayla saw the fear he'd been hiding. His sister was all the family he had left. I'm staying, he said. Don't be ridiculous. You have the Tokyo meeting. Fuck Tokyo. Everyone stared. Evan Sinclair didn't curse, didn't lose control, didn't put anything before business. Evan, Sarah said gently. I'm okay. You're not okay. You're having emergency surgery. And you sitting here won't change that. It might. Kayla understood then. He'd lost his parents suddenly, tragically. The thought of losing Sarah was triggering every fear he'd buried under success and control. She took his hand. We'll both stay. Sarah looked at her gratefully. You must be Kayla. Thank you for being here. They spent the night in uncomfortable hospital chairs, Evan refusing to leave even for coffee. Kayla stayed beside him, holding his hand when the fear got too visible, talking about random things when the silence got too heavy. Tell me about the first company, she said around 3 a.m. The one that failed. Why? Because I want to know. Because talking is better than panicking. So he told her. About being 18 with a sister to support and an idea for software that could predict market trends. About maxing out credit cards, living on hope and ramen, convincing investors who laughed him out of rooms. About the day it all collapsed, taking their savings and nearly their apartment with it. Sarah was the one who said to try again, he admitted. I was ready to give up, get a regular job. She said, you're Evan fucking Sinclair, you don't give up. She was 14. Smart kid, smarter than me. She's always been the heart of the family, I'm just the wallet. You're more than that. Am I? Without the money, what am I? You're the brother staying up all night in a hospital chair. You're the man who helped a stranger without question. You're someone who remembers French toast preferences and learns to cook them. That's not much. That's everything. The surgery went perfectly. At 9:47 a.m., Sarah delivered 2 healthy boys, small but fierce, crying with impressive lung capacity for premature babies. Evan cried when he held them for the first time, his nephew's tiny fingers wrapping around his thumb. They're perfect, he whispered to Sarah, who was exhausted but glowing. Uncle Evan, she said with a tired smile, has a nice ring to it. I'm going to spoil them rotten. I'm counting on it. But first, go home, shower, sleep. You look terrible. I'm fine. Kayla, Sarah interrupted, please take my stubborn brother home. You have my permission to use force if necessary. In the car, Evan finally relaxed, the tension of the last 24 hours catching up with him. Thank you for staying. Of course. You didn't have to. Evan, stop. This is what people do when they care about each other. They show up. I'm not used to people showing up. Get used to it. He looked at her then with such raw vulnerability that she had to look away. This man who controlled billions, who could buy anything, was stunned by the simple act of someone staying through a difficult night. Back at his penthouse, she'd never been there before, Kayla was struck by how cold it was. Beautiful, expensive, but utterly impersonal. Like a high-end hotel suite, not a home. Sarah was right, she said, looking around. This is serial killer aesthetic. It came furnished. I never bothered to change it. You've lived here 5 years. I don't really live here, I just sleep here sometimes. She walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bay. The view is incredible. It's better with you in it. That line work on all the girls? I wouldn't know. I haven't had a girl here in ever, actually. She turned to look at him. Ever? This is my space. Was my space. I don't bring people here. But you brought me. You're not people, you're Kayla. The way he said her name like it meant everything made her stomach flip. She crossed to him, standing close enough to see the exhaustion in his eyes, the stubble he'd normally never allow, the vulnerability he'd never show the world. You need sleep, she said softly. Stay with me? Evan, just sleep. I need to know you're here, that someone is here. She stayed. He fell asleep almost instantly, fully clothed on top of the covers, holding her hand like an anchor. She watched him sleep, this complicated man who'd saved her without question and was somehow more lost than she'd ever been. When he woke hours later, the sun was setting, painting the room gold. You stayed, he said, voice rough with sleep. You asked me to. People don't usually do what I ask unless I'm paying them. I'm not people, remember. I'm Kayla. He kissed her then, different from before, deeper, more desperate, like he was trying to convince himself she was real. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. I'm falling for you, he said. Probably already fallen. Definitely already fallen. Evan, I know it's fast. I know it's complicated. I know you're just getting free from Ryan and starting a new job, and the last thing you need is another complicated man. But she kissed him to stop the rambling. I'm falling too. Really? Really? Which terrifies me because the last time I fell for someone, it nearly destroyed me. I'm not him. I know. That's what makes it scarier. Ryan was obviously wrong from the start. I just ignored the signs, but you're good. And if I lose you, you won't. You can't promise that. I can promise to try, to show up, to be worth the risk. She started the job the next week. The community outreach program was everything Evan had promised. Meaningful work helping women escape situations like hers. Her first client was a woman named Teresa with 3 kids and an ex who'd drained their bank accounts before disappearing. I don't know where to start, Teresa said, crying in Kayla's office. We start with safety, Kayla said, remembering her own first night at the St. Regis. Everything else comes after. She threw herself into the work, building partnerships with shelters, creating job training programs, establishing emergency funds for women who needed to run immediately. Evan watched from a distance, never interfering but always supporting. You're extraordinary at this, he told her, after she'd successfully placed her 10th client in safe housing with a new job. I just remember what I needed. Most people forget once they're safe. I'll never forget. The fear, the desperation, the relief when you didn't ask questions. I carry all of it. They'd been dating, properly dating, for 2 months. Dinners when he could escape the office, weekends when major deals weren't consuming him, stolen moments between their increasingly busy schedules. He was teaching her about business. She was teaching him about life outside of it. I want you to come to the gala, he said one evening over Chinese takeout in her apartment. He preferred her small space to his cold penthouse. The Sinclair Foundation annual gala? The very one. Evan, that's your world, the real one. You're my real world. You know what I mean. Tech billionaires, society people, everyone who matters. You matter. To you, maybe. But to them, I'll be the gold digger, the nobody who trapped Evan Sinclair. Anyone who thinks that doesn't know you. Exactly, they don't know me. So let them. Come to the gala. Be yourself. Show them what I see. She agreed, though anxiety twisted her stomach for days. Marcus arranged for a stylist, though Kayla insisted on something simple, an elegant black dress that made her feel like herself, just elevated. The night of the gala, Evan picked her up in the Rolls-Royce. Full billionaire mode tonight? She asked. It's expected. But you should know, I'd rather be eating pizza on your floor. Liar. I'd rather be eating pizza on your floor with you than champagne and caviar with them. That's sweet. That's true. The gala was at the Fairmont, the ballroom transformed into something from a fairy tale. Hundreds of people in designer everything, jewelry that could fund small countries, Conversations about money that made Kayla's head spin. "Breathe," Evan whispered, his hand steady on her lower back. "I'm trying." "You've faced down a stalker, X. These people are less dangerous." "Are they, though?" He laughed, the sound drawing attention. Several people did double takes, Evan Sinclair laughing. With a woman nobody recognized. The whispers started immediately. Kayla heard fragments. "Who is she? Where did she come from? How long has this been going on?" "Ignore them," Evan said, but she could feel his tension too. They made it through cocktails, Kayla smiling and nodding while people assessed her like a spreadsheet. Then dinner, where she was seated between Evan and a tech investor who spent the entire meal trying to figure out her angle. "So what do you do?" he asked for the third time, as if her answer might change. "I run the community outreach program at Sinclair Innovations." "But what did you do before?" "Survived," she said simply, tired of the interrogation. The man blinked, unsure how to respond. It was during the auction that everything went wrong. Victoria Chen, because of course she'd be there, approached with predatory grace. "Evan, darling, and this must be your friend." "Girlfriend," Evan corrected firmly. "How modern. I heard she literally jumped into your car, like something from a movie." "Victoria," Evan's voice held warning. "What? It's romantic. A damsel in distress, a knight in a shining Rolls-Royce, though I wonder what happens when the novelty wears off." "There's no novelty, isn't there? You've always had a savior complex, Evan. First your sister, now her. But what happens when she doesn't need saving anymore?" Kayla found her voice. "Then he'll have something he's never had before. A partner who's with him by choice, not need." Victoria's smile sharpened. "Choice? Interesting word. Tell me, what would you choose if he wasn't worth billions?" "Him," Kayla said without hesitation. "I'd choose him broke, broken, or brilliant. The money is just noise. Easy to say when you're wearing diamonds he bought you." Actually, Kayla touched the simple pearl necklace she wore, her grandmother's, the only valuable thing she owned. "These were my grandmother's. The dress is borrowed. The shoes are from Payless. The only thing he's given me is a chance to rebuild my life through honest work. So yes, Victoria, I'd choose him without the billions. The question is, would you?" The silence that followed was deafening. Then someone started clapping. Sarah, who'd been cleared to attend despite the recent birth, standing with her husband and slowly applauding. Others joined and Victoria retreated with as much grace as she could manage. "That was brilliant," Evan whispered. "That was terrifying. You're incredible. I'm going to throw up. Bathroom's that way." She didn't throw up, but she did hide in the bathroom for 10 minutes, letting the adrenaline fade. When she emerged, Evan was waiting. "We can leave," he offered. "No, I'm not running anymore. Not from Ryan, not from Victoria, not from your world. It doesn't have to be my world. We can make our own." "Can we, though? You're Evan Sinclair. This is part of the package. Packages can be redesigned, not fundamentally, and I wouldn't want you to. This is who you are. The galas, the business, the billions. I just need to figure out if I can exist in it without losing myself." "You won't lose yourself. You're too strong for that. I lost myself with Ryan. Ryan tried to make you smaller. I want to make you bigger. There's a difference." She kissed him then, in the middle of the Fairmont hallway, not caring who saw. "Take me home," she said. "Your place or mine?" "Yours. It's time I made it less serial killer-ish." Over the next months, she did exactly that. Plants appeared in his penthouse, then colors, throw pillows, art from local artists, photos from their adventures. She introduced him to hiking. "There's no cell service. That's the point. To farmers markets. I can have this delivered." Again, missing the point. To lazy Sunday mornings that didn't involve checking emails. He introduced her to his world more gradually. Smaller dinners with key partners, tech conferences where she could speak about the outreach program, charitable events where her experience was an asset, not a liability. Ryan had disappeared completely after his last confrontation with security. The restraining order was renewed, this time for 3 years. Kayla still looked over her shoulder sometimes, but less often, the fear fading like an old bruise. One evening, 6 months after she'd jumped into his car, Evan took her back to the spot where they'd met. It was raining again, the street glossy with water. "Why are we here?" she asked. "I wanted to remember the moment my life actually started." "Your life started long before me." "No, I was existing before you. Successful existing, but still just existing. You jumped into my car, and suddenly I was living." He pulled out a small box, and Kayla's heart stopped. "Evan, I know it's fast. I know we're still figuring things out. But Kayla, I've made million-dollar decisions with less certainty than I have about this. About you, about us." Inside was a ring, not the massive diamond she'd expected, but a simple sapphire surrounded by small diamonds, elegant and understated. "It was my mother's," he said, "the only thing I kept. Sarah insisted I save it for someone who'd love me, not my money. That's you. Only you." "Evan, you don't have to answer now, or soon, or ever, if you don't want to. I just needed you to know that this isn't a phase or a savior complex or a novelty. This is me wanting to build a life with you, a real life, with Sunday morning French toast and too many plants and arguing about cell service on hikes. Yes. Yes, you'll think about it. Yes, I'll marry you. Really. Really. But Evan, I need you to understand. I'm not going to become someone else. I'll never be comfortable at those galas. I'll always be the girl who jumped into your car. Good. That girl saved my life. Why would I want anyone else?" They were married 4 months later in Mrs. Rossi's restaurant with just family and close friends. Sarah was the maid of honor, the twins in tiny tuxedos. Kayla's colleagues from the outreach program attended, along with 3 of the women she'd helped who'd become friends. "I should warn you," Evan said in his vows, "I'm not good at being a husband. I work too much. I forget to eat. I once tried to schedule our dates in my business calendar. But I promise to learn, to choose us over deals, love over logic, pizza on the floor over champagne at galas whenever possible." "I should warn you," Kayla replied. "I'm not good at being a billionaire's wife. I'll never understand half your work, I'll always choose comfort over couture, and I'll definitely embarrass you at fancy events. But I promise to keep you human, to remind you that success means nothing without someone to share it with, and to always be your safe place to land." Ryan appeared one last time, 3 days after their wedding, violating the restraining order to leave a letter at her office. It was full of apologies, manipulations, and threats in equal measure. Kayla handed it directly to the police, didn't even finish reading it. He was arrested within hours, this time facing real jail time. "Does it bother you?" Evan asked that night, "that he can't let go?" "It bothers me that I ever thought that was love, that possession and control felt like caring. And now I know what love actually is. It's someone giving you space to be yourself while also keeping you safe. It's jumping into a stranger's car and finding home." 2 years later, Kayla's program had expanded to 5 cities, helping hundreds of women escape abusive situations. She was invited to speak at conferences, sharing her story and the model they'd developed. Evan would sit in the back row, proud and slightly awed by the woman who'd transformed from a frightened runaway to a force of nature. "You know what the best investment I ever made was?" he asked one evening, watching her prep for a presentation. "Let me guess, the outreach program?" "No, keeping the door unlocked that night, being in that exact spot at that exact moment. That wasn't an investment, that was chance. That was fate. You don't believe in fate?" "I didn't. Then you jumped into my car." Their first child was born 3 years after that rainy night, a daughter they named Grace, for the way life had brought them together. The second, a son named Samuel after Evan's father, came 2 years later. "Mommy, tell us the story," Grace would demand at bedtime. "Which story?" "The one where you jumped into Daddy's car." So Kayla would tell it, each time adding new details, making it more of a fairy tale. But Evan would correct her. "Tell them the truth," he'd say, "that Mommy was brave enough to ask for help, and Daddy was smart enough to give it." "That's not very romantic," Grace would complain. "Real love isn't always romantic," Evan would explain. "Sometimes it's just being there when someone needs you." The penthouse had long since been transformed into a home. Children's art on the refrigerator, toys scattered despite the housekeeper's best efforts, the formal dining room converted into Kayla's office when she started her own consulting firm, helping companies develop survivor support programs. Ryan had served 18 months in prison and then disappeared entirely, moving to another state, finally accepting what he'd never been able to before, that Kayla was gone, that she'd found something real, that his version of love had never been love at all. One evening, 10 years after that fateful night, Evan and Kayla sat in the same spot in Sausalito, where they'd had their first real conversation, watching the sunset while the kids played on the beach with Sarah's twins. "Any regrets?" Evan asked, a question he'd asked many times over the years. "Just one," Kayla said. "What?" "I should have jumped into your car sooner. You jumped at exactly the right time, when you were ready to be saved, and I was ready to be found. You saved me first." "No, we saved each other. That's what makes it perfect." A text interrupted them. Teresa, Kayla's first client, now a program coordinator herself, sharing that another woman had successfully escaped and started over. "That's number 847, Kayla said, tracking every success. 847 women who got what you got. A second chance. What we got. You were as lost as I was, just with better shoes." "Expensive shoes don't prevent loneliness." "No, but they do make running easier." "You didn't run, you jumped into my car, into my life, into my heart." So cheesy. So true. They watched their children play, Grace trying to organize everyone into a game while Sam threw sand. And Kayla thought about the journey, from that terrifying night running from Ryan to this moment of absolute peace and safety. "You know what?" she said. "Victoria was wrong. Victoria was wrong about everything. No, specifically about the novelty wearing off. It's been 10 years and you still look at me like I just jumped into your car. Because every day with you feels like that first day, unexpected, terrifying, perfect. Even when I leave my shoes everywhere and forget to put the cap on the toothpaste, especially then." Sarah called them over. She was pregnant again, announcing it with typical dramatic flair. As the family celebrated, Kayla caught Evan watching her with that expression she'd come to know so well. Wonder mixed with love, mixed with a little bit of disbelief that this was his life. Later that night, after the kids were asleep and the house was quiet, they stood on their balcony overlooking the city where it all began. "I have something to tell you," Kayla said. "Oh?" "I'm pregnant again." Evan's face cycled through shock, joy, and mild panic. "Again. Again. We're going to need a bigger car. We're going to need a lot of things. But we have the only thing that matters, which is each other. Everything else is just logistics." 9 months later, when their third child was born, another daughter they named Hope, the birth announcement included a line that made everyone who knew their story smile. Born to parents who found each other in the most unlikely way and held on through everything. The Rolls-Royce still sat in Evan's garage, rarely driven but carefully maintained. Sometimes he'd find Kayla sitting in the back seat, usually when she was stressed or needed to think. "It's my safe space," she explained, "where everything changed. From terror to safety, from alone to loved." 20 years after that rainy night at Grace's high school graduation, she gave a speech about courage. "My mom taught me that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's acting despite it. When she was 25, she made the bravest choice of her life. She asked a stranger for help. That stranger became my father, and that moment of courage created our entire family. So to anyone out there who's scared, who's running, who needs help, be brave enough to ask. You never know who might be waiting to catch you." Evan squeezed Kayla's hand as their daughter spoke, both of them crying. "She's going to change the world," he whispered. "She already has, just by existing, by being proof that beautiful things can come from desperate moments." After the ceremony, an elderly Mrs. Rossi, 93 and still sharp, pulled Kayla aside. "I remember when he first brought you to my restaurant," she said. You looked like a scared rabbit. Now look at you, strong, successful, radiating love. You saved that boy. He saved me first. No, Kara, you saved each other. That's the best kind of love story. The outreach program had become a national model, helping thousands of women escape abuse and rebuild their lives. Kayla had written a book about it, not about her and Evan specifically, but about the process of rebuilding after trauma, the importance of accepting help, the power of second chances. At the book launch, someone asked her what advice she'd give to women in abusive situations. Run, she said simply. Run to anyone, anywhere that feels safe. Jump into a stranger's car if you have to, just get out. Everything else can be figured out later, but first, you have to save yourself. Is that what you did? Jumped into a stranger's car. Kayla looked at Evan, who was standing in the back as always, watching her with that same wonder from 20 years ago. I did. Best decision I ever made, though I don't recommend it as a general strategy. The audience laughed, but Evan's eyes were soft with memory. Later, as they drove home in the Tesla, the Rolls was now officially retired, too precious with memories to risk in San Francisco traffic, Evan took a detour. Where are we going? You'll see. He pulled up to that same spot, that same corner where she'd jumped into his car all those years ago. It was raining again, because San Francisco had a sense of poetry. What are we doing here? Remembering, honoring, being grateful. For what? For you being brave enough to jump. For me being lost enough to be there. For the rain that made you desperate. For every single thing that led to that moment. Even Ryan? Even him. Because without him, you wouldn't have needed to run. And without running, you wouldn't have found me. Found you? You were just sitting in your car. Waiting. I was waiting for you, I just didn't know it. They sat there in comfortable silence, watching the rain, holding hands like teenagers. Our kids are going to think we're crazy, Kayla said. Our kids already think we're crazy. Grace calls our story aggressively romantic. Is that what we are? Aggressively romantic? We're something, fatefully fortunate, desperately destined, accidentally perfect. Nothing about us was an accident. Even that first night, I could have locked my doors. You could have chosen any other car, but you chose mine and I chose to let you in. And you never let me out. Never will. Good. As they drove home to their sleeping children, to their transformed life, to their unexpected perfect family, Kayla thought about the girl she'd been, terrified, desperate, alone. That girl could never have imagined this life, this love, this safety that went soul deep. Thank you, she said suddenly. For what? For not asking questions that night, for driving without hesitation, for seeing me as someone worth saving. Thank you for jumping, for trusting, for transforming my successful life into an actual life worth living. We're very grateful people. We're very lucky people. Lucky, or just brave enough to grab chances when they literally jump into our cars? Both, definitely both. The rain continued as they pulled into their garage, but inside their home was warm, bright, full of life and love, and the kind of safety that can only be built by two people who saved each other without meaning to. Somewhere in the city, another woman might be running from danger, looking for salvation. Kayla hoped she'd find her own Evan, or better yet, that she'd find the strength to save herself and then choose love, rather than need it. But for Kayla, need had become choice, desperation had become devotion, and a stranger's car had become home in every way that mattered. The billionaire who'd given her shelter had become her foundation. The woman who'd jumped into his car had become his entire world, and the rain that had driven them together still fell on San Francisco, writing other stories, creating other chances, but none quite like theirs. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to our channel for more unexpected love stories. Share in the comments, have you ever taken a desperate chance that changed your life? Do you believe the worst moments can lead to the best outcomes? Remember, sometimes salvation comes from the most unexpected places, and real love often begins with simply being there when someone needs help. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to ring that notification bell so you never miss our next emotional romance story.